welcome to Diversity in the Community. I am so excited tonight to have a young lady with me. Well, actually, three young women with me, but one of them used to be in my junior choir. And I am so proud of her because she has made, because of the work that she does, she has made a difference in many people's lives. And that is, they call you Marvy?
Marvette. Yes, they call me Marvy now.
Her name is Marvette Williams.
Yes.
And I'm going to have her just introduce herself, and then I'm going to ask her some questions. And the other people that I have on today is Arlena Cohen Bailey. I'm so happy to have her. She's into real estate. And Marvette has brought a young lady with her to do a testimonial, and her name is Tanika Bowman. And I'm so happy to have all of you on the program tonight. But we're going to start out with Miss Marvette tonight. So, Marvette, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, or whatever, before we get into the questions.
Okay. So my name is Marvette Williams. I was born and raised in the Hartford area, 37 years old. Have an 19-year-old son who's in college, his second year in college. The relationship that you and I had, I grew up in the church with you. I've known you my entire life, and I still attend that church till this day. But yes, I was born and raised in Hartford. My mom, my dad, everybody, my siblings, everybody still resides in the Hartford County.
Wonderful. So, Marvette, you have changed a lot of people's lives, because I saw all of those the texts that some of the people sent you. And I know at one time my credit score was way down, and it took hard work to get back up to the place where if you went to buy a house or something, that they didn't give you the highest rate and everything else. So I think this is a very, very important program to have tonight, because a lot of people are suffering because of their credit scores. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you, what made you become a credit repair specialist, and how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for 2 years now. I got into it because I got tired of having bad credit. It was way too many years of having bad credit. So I started researching and reaching out to some companies to help me get it together. And unfortunately, they weren't giving me the resources that I needed. And I had to pay for a lot of services, and I just was not getting what I needed. So I figured I'd take the time out myself and do some research, do some footwork. And it took a lot of time and patience, because this was years of not knowing anything about credit. So it took me almost a year just to even make sense of what credit was, how it worked. So yes, I did extensive research on credit and finances and everything like that. And once I figured out how it worked, everything in my life changed.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. So we're going to ask some basic questions here. What is a credit bureau?
A credit bureau is a company that collects information relating to credit agencies. Financial institutions use these to base this off your credit worthiness. So they want to see if you're consistent, if you pay your bills on time, and things like that. And that's how they base you off of lending money to you.
Oh, okay. What actions can hurt my credit score, and how can you make improvements?
Well, there's a lot of things that can hurt your credit score. Hard inquiries, which means shopping too much for credit. You look like a high risk when you're just shopping around, because the banks want to know, why are you applying to so many companies at one time in a short amount of time. Late payments will hurt your credit. High utilization. If you have a credit card, $500 credit limit, and you're using $499, you are maximizing too much of that money, so you will see your score drop. There's so many things that's factored into the credit, but once you understand that and manage it, it will become a lot easier to manage. But yes, you want to stay away from shopping around for credit cards, unnecessary loans, and things like that.
So anytime you make an inquiry, that's affecting your credit score?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Every time you apply for credit, you will see your score drop. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, you will.
What is considered a good credit score?
Well, excellent credit is above 740. They just revised the credit scoring system, the FICO 10. So they have made it a little harder. Well, when people think that they have good or fair credit, you want to be over 700 now to even get a decent rate, a decent interest rate. So
What's the
anything
highest your credit score can actually go up to?
850.
850. Oh, all right. At one time, I didn't think it could go over 800. Oh,
Yes,
now,
the
what's the worst score you ever seen?
What was that?
What's the worst credit score you ever seen? The lowest?
Believe it or not, no score. There are people who don't have a calculated score, and that's because they don't have any credit history at all.
Okay.
So not having credit is just as bad as having bad credit, because they can't base you off your credit worthiness if you don't have anything to show them that you know how to pay bills on time.
So, question for you. I had one time I paid off a card and I closed it out, but it made my credit score drop. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like, oh, my credit score will go up. I got rid of this card, and then, So why does that make your credit score drop?
You never want to close a credit card. You will lose all that payment history. So if you've had a credit card for 10 years, you will lose 10 years of credit history if you close that account. So if possible, you never want to close a credit card. Even if you have to keep it and just use $10 of gas every month just to keep that. Once you close that account, you will lose all that payment history.
Okay. One more question I had.
Canceling a card will definitely drop your score also.
Oh, okay. I had a credit card too that I just did not use. And so eventually they ended up sending me back whatever. I think it was a check for $1 or something like that. But I didn't use it. I was just gonna hold on to it for that reason. But they ended up closing it and sending it back. So would that still affect my credit score?
Yes, because it's still closed. Regardless if the consumer or the creditor closes it, it's still considered a closed account. So you want to have open. You want right. You want to have open accounts to show that you know how to manage it. If they're not open, they're not able to see how you're managing money.
Oh, okay. All right. What score do people need to purchase a house?
So that's a good question. So there are people that can get approved for a mortgage because of their finances, but the FHA loan, you can get approved at 620. I've seen people even get approved with a much lower score, but they had a larger down payment. I have a theory with people that are quick to get a house just because they got approved. You have to keep in mind that you're going into a mortgage for 15 or 30 years. So just because you're getting approved does not mean that you should go with that rate, if you get what I'm saying. There can be a large difference in the interest rate. And do you want to pay $900 for that mortgage, or do you want to pay $1,600 for that same house for 30 years? So approval odds will vary depending on your finances and your income, your credit score, your down payment. There is a saying that I have now: being broke is very expensive. You will get approved for a car, you can get approved for a house, but you're going to pay your way, and it's going to cost you a lot. It's going to cost you a lot for not having good credit. So I tell people when they're shopping for a home, or when they come to me to inquire about finances and their credit, I tell them to clean up their credit as good as it can get. Don't, just because a bank is going to offer you a mortgage with a 599 score, you can give yourself another 6 months to a year to work on your score so you can get the best interest rate possible.
Okay. So you not only help people to get their scores together, but you counsel them too on what they need to do. Yeah. Okay.
I do.
If I wanted to work with you, what is the process?
before we do anything, we would have to do a one-on-one consultation. Reason being is that everybody's credit report varies. There's some people in debt only $2,000, and there's other people who's in debt $200,000. I have to get a feel and understand where you are financially. What are your goals and your expectations? And then after we sit down and we can understand each other, then we'll move forward. But we have to see, because everybody thinks that credit repair and finance is like a quick fix. And I tell people all the time that this didn't happen overnight. So this definitely will not be fixed in 30, 60, 90 days. A lot of us have been living like this for a long time. And unfortunately, like I tell people all the time, most of my clients, I give my testimony. I haven't been walking around with a 750 credit score all my life. And my mother, we didn't talk about finance and credit and mortgages like that. And it's because she didn't know anything about it. So she can't teach me something that she had no knowledge of. You know what I'm saying? So to understand the entire process I'm still learning to this day how to manage money, because now I have access to money that I never had access to because I have a good credit score. So now I'm trying to discipline myself on how to use it, when to use it, and be very careful, because, when you do have a good credit score, the banks it's in your favor now. So they're actually calling you and offering you money. You don't have to beg anybody for a $5,000 loan or anything like that. They're actually calling you and the tables have turned.
Okay, and that's very tempting, I'm sure.
Yes, it is, but it's a good feeling. And once you discipline yourself, it's a different type of life you will live.
Now, tell me, how did you learn the process of working with people? How did you get into this and learn what you needed to do to help other people with their credit scores?
So when I started this journey, it was strictly just fun, just learning, understanding, trying to help my family and my friends. And that's when Tamika came into play. Tamika reached out to me, and she was one of my very first clients. And we talked about finance, we talked about credit, and I helped her, and she'll tell you about that. But Tamika is a businesswoman herself. So when Tamika began to tell other people about me, it blew up. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had no intentions of starting a company. I was just trying to educate people and tell my family about credit and finance. And Tamika just brought it to a whole nother level. She put it out there because she has a great following. She has a wonderful platform, and she advertises, and when you do business and you do it the right way, people, you don't have to, your business and your character will speak for itself.
Yeah, wonderful. Working with you, when should I be able to see like results? I'm taking from you that you have to be patient because it's kind of a slow process.
It is very slow. It is a slow process because, again, it's taking on or reversing habits that you've had for probably 15, 20, 30 years. Learning how to manage credit cards, what credit cards are for, how to use them. A lot of people don't understand that credit cards, when the bank credit card, they're not giving you a credit card for you to go shopping. They want to see how responsible you are. So you need to know the utilization. If they give you a credit card for $1,000, you should be spending no more than $100 on that credit card if you're trying to maximize your score. So once you learn all the techniques and discipline yourself, and some people need budgeting sheets or whatever it is that's going to get you to where you want to go, that's what you're going to have to do. But each individual is different. But I tell people when they sit down with me, give yourself a realistic expectation and give yourself a year and a half, even 2 years. It could happen a lot sooner, but to avoid any confusion, give yourself a realistic time.
Okay. All right. Before I bring on Tamika, I can't wait to hear her, Tamika. I want to just read a couple of the texts that you got from different people.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, I think he was sitting to somebody, said, morning, check your Equifax score out. And this person had gotten up to 691 and they were excited. And it was like, oh, wow. I love reading all of these. Let me see another one. What did this person said? Sorry, Marv, just got out of a meeting from this morning. This is so damn exciting. Wonder how it's going to look by my birthday. FYI, I've never seen my score over 600. Closest was 598. Is that wonderful or what? It's
a good feeling. It's a good feeling. And I'm building relationships with people at the same time, business and personal. I'm branching out, and it's a good feeling to see people break generational curses.
Yes.
So I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm really excited about it.
Somebody had got their Discover card, and they were approved for $10,000. We're just hoping that they just spit it off. We hope that they spend $9,999.
Exactly. That's my coworker. I stay on top of him all the time.
Somebody else said, good morning. I wanted to reach out and thank you for everything you do. I appreciate your help. I see your magic. And so I guess something really changed for this person. That is just wonderful. I love it. I love it. Just so many of these. Thanks for everything. And I had one here with someone. I think they had the keys to their house. I had a picture of someone's keys to their house, but it's just more and more. And one of these I was looking at where collections was removed from people's accounts. I mean, all kinds of things like this. So you work to have all of this stuff moved from their credit scores. You work with them, right?
So depending on what's on your credit, a lot of times people don't really understand the collection process. Sometimes most all the time, collection companies buy files from creditors in bulk. And I've seen time after time on people's credit reports that a collection agency is coming after you for something that was either paid by your insurance company or you paid it off to the original creditor. So a lot of people they get afraid and they will pay they don't have a clue why they're paying this company. They don't know who they're paying. So we need to start to track our credit. I have a lot of people that come to me and they say, I want to get my credit fixed. And I said, oh, what's your score? Oh, I haven't looked at it in 5 years because I'm scared. No, you got to look at your credit. You have to pay close attention to it because companies are making money off of us because they're billing us for things that, we either paid for before or, I've seen instances where, say, for instance, I lived in a household with my sister and she owed a Comcast bill, and I've seen them attach it to people with the same name, same last name, or same address, and it doesn't have anything to do with me, so you're not always entitled to pay everything that's on your credit report because these companies sometimes don't even have the right to collect this money from you, let alone put it on your credit report. So I evaluate to see, what's on here. Do you owe these companies? If you do owe them, let's make a settlement. Let's pay them. And if you don't owe them, let's dispute so that we can clean up your credit report.
Okay, great. I'm going to read one more of these. This one said, good morning. Recently saw numerous accounts of mine that were deleted. Also last month, I was blessed to receive my first car loan. I want to thank you so much and also ask for any tips with this car loan besides paying it and paying it on time. Wonderful. That's just making people's dreams come true, which is going to lead me to Miss Tamika Bowman. Thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to hear from you and just tell me how you got hooked up with Miss Marvy. And take it away, honey.
Well, Marvy was a friend of mine. Well, she was a friend of a friend's, and we, met each other. And I knew what she was doing, and I told her I needed help. So she looked at everything and she counseled me, and she just told me, listen, let me take care of this. Just do what I tell you to do and everything is going to work out. I just need you to trust me. And I did. And usually I'm hard-headed and I don't listen. But I did. I listened to her because I was in a place where I couldn't get anything, you know, and it wasn't that I owed a lot. I just really didn't have much credit from being young and having credit cards, but never, you know, followed through with them. But eventually they must have, I don't know what ended up happening, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But my credit score was, when Marvy started, my credit score was like 527. And she doesn't like for me to say this, but it's the truth. And everybody is different. But in 90 days, I was up to 714. So I went from them trying to get a cell phone. They saying we need a $600 deposit, to going back in 90 days. And they saying, oh, you get 20 lines and you get 15 devices. So, I mean, and me trying to, you know, expand my business and grow more, you know, I have to fly out a lot and do a lot of things. And a lot of times I didn't have the money. I didn't have any credit cards. I didn't have anything to do, anything I needed to do unless I made money. And the type of business I'm in, if I don't physically do the work, I don't get any money. So, you know, it was just a blessing because now, you know, my credit, it looks good. I'm able to open up a business now. Thank you, Marvy. I was able to open up a suite in another state. So, you know, things of that nature. Just, you know, she called me one day. She said, look at your email. And I said, okay. So I looked at my email and I said, well, what am I looking for? She said, look up congratulations. So I searched congratulations, and there was a Navy Federal credit card for $10,000. So I had never had a credit card for $10,000, let alone probably had $10,000 sitting somewhere that I could just use when I needed to, for, you know, but just things of that nature. You know, I'm working by myself, taking care of my mom and my children. So we needed an extra cushion. I needed a new car. I needed to make things happen at that moment. And in 90 days, I can honestly say, like, she changed my life, because it went from me not being able to do anything to having all of this access. Now I have money saved of my own. I have credit to do what I need to do. And everything it just worked out. It worked in my favor, and she is a blessing. I will say that. Like, she did. She changed me in 90 days. And even after, you know, she made sure she stayed on top of you and make sure that you're doing the right thing with this credit. So that way you don't reverse the process and then you have to go back to her and let her start all over again and clean up your sloppy little mess. But she's awesome. She's amazing. Like, you know, and so many times we don't like to deal with our own people because we are afraid of how we can be as people. And she makes you feel comfortable. You know, she never gossips about anybody's, you know, business, or, you know, everybody that I recommended. All I did was put it on Facebook and say, y'all, listen here. You know, when I post something, you're going to believe what I say, because I'm not going to tell you nothing wrong. This girl right here, she got something magic going on. And I said it's some black girl magic, because she definitely, like, changed a lot of lives, a lot.
Wow. My little Marvette that used to sing in the choir. The songs, oh my goodness, change your lives.
Changing lives. That's my purpose.
That's right. I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Tamika. I really appreciate it. And I can just tell that you're just saying that all from your heart. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure Marvy. Should I be calling you Marvy? That sounds like.
Yes, that's the new name.
wait a minute, I'm old. I want to be hip like everybody else. Oh, okay. Oh, love it. My next guest is Arlena Cohen Bailey. Thank you so much for being on, honey. And you're from C21 All Points Realty?
Yes.
Okay. Again, thank you for being here. And I have some questions for you. First of all, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so like Marvette or Marvy, I am also Hartford born and raised, a product of our community. We went to the same high school together, and actually me and Marvette go back to elementary school, and we were really close friends in elementary school and competed against each other in a spelling bee back in the day. So we have known each other for many years, and like I said, I'm from Hartford, and I I specialize in humans and homes. So I also work in human resources, but I'm also a realtor. So I've been doing real estate for probably a little over 10 years. I did take a break for a period of time and got back into it in the past couple of years. So kind of a similar timeline as Marvette. And it's just been an amazing journey. And this year specifically has been life-changing for many people, right? We've all had to pivot and adjust. On a personal note, I am a mother of two. I have a husband, a dog. So juggling multiple projects and ventures and really maximizing and accelerating my entrepreneurial spirit. So it's people like Marvette that continue to inspire me. And as Tamika mentioned earlier, as women of color in our community and the work that we do is not just about profit and making a dollar, right? But it serves a greater purpose. As Tamika talked about, it's life-changing. So to have the work that Marvette does to pre-qualify the clients that I work with, and I've referred clients to her, she's referred clients to me. So that's been an amazing partnership as well. It is awesome to kind of see someone take that full journey through the home ownership process, with her consultation and guidance. So.
Okay. You guys talk about your families and all. You guys all look like babies. You say you've been doing it for 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. I mean, you look, okay. Y'all look so young. Okay.
Listen, I'll take that.
Me too.
How did you get into the real estate business, and what is the role of a realtor?
Yeah, so actually I decided, so my daughter is 13, so it's actually, more than 10 years. I remember being pregnant and sitting in a real estate class with my daughter. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, and, really wanting to, the love of homes and architecture and getting to know the community and helping people really fulfill their real estate dreams, right? And, Marvette touched on it earlier. We didn't necessarily grow up in households that talked about how to buy a home, how to maintain or build your credit, how to file for LLC, which accountant to use, which contractor to use, right? What do you look for when you're looking to buy a house? And actually at that age, my dad is from Jamaica, so I'm half Jamaican. And he actually did have multiple properties and was really big on, coming to America years ago and really maximizing what then was the American dream, because things have changed now. But so he had multiple properties. So I seen him do investments and have other businesses and really hustle. And, I just figured, why not, right? That's a great way to maximize your investments and also help others fulfill their dreams. So that's how I originally got involved. And, as of recently, as I worked on other crafts and HR and being really involved in other parts of the community. I'm a Hartford Business Journal 40 Under 40 winner. So that was an amazing accomplishment that I got last year, thank goodness, before COVID. So just really working on those efforts to really build my brand, right? And establish those relationships. Because at that point in my career, I was younger and some of the people who were my age group at that time were not buying homes, right? They were just getting out of college or living with a boyfriend or girlfriend or still living with parents. But now, I have a broader network and, when you learn more, you do more. So I feel like I'm able to really help people through my own experiences because, everything that I've done hasn't been perfect either, right? And kind of similar to what Marvette mentioned, her needing to work on her own credit really propelled her proactiveness and initiative to learn more about it. And that same thing has applied for me. So, I've been able to help clients where it's their first time buying a home, people who have upgraded and got a bigger home because their family has grown. And, it's really about relationships, right? And my expertise in leadership and human resources has really helped me as well, because similar to what Tamika mentioned about keeping people's business private and confidential, like that definitely comes into play. I really act with high integrity and ethics and really put, my all into my clients 24/7. So no matter how many houses we got to go see, how many contracts we got to write, I'm going in 100%, maybe actually 110%. All the time.
I just went through that. Actually, I just sold my house and now I'm living in an apartment. Yeah.
I missed that opportunity. See, we should have linked up before, not just playing.
You said you were saying that you were awarded with, what did you say, you won some type of award?
The Hartford Business Journal, they have a 40 under 40 that they do every year. Yeah. And they pick select, top talent in the Hartford or Connecticut area. So I had the privilege of getting that award last year. So I was really proud of that moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Why do people, I see sometimes that people selling their own homes, but why do they need a realtor?
Yeah. So we have those for sale by owners, and, in the real estate world, those are the type of clients that we're encouraged to pursue. Right. But why a realtor, really makes a difference is that, we have access to the data that a seller needs to really price their home accordingly. We have access to the advertising and media and marketing that a seller needs to sell their home. So just sticking a for sale sign in front of someone's house may or may not work, in most cases, but a realtor is really there to act, on your behalf and negotiate the highest and best price. And in this market, the value of a realtor has just been phenomenal this year, right? Houses, people who are selling houses, putting them on the market, they're getting multiple offers. They're, going under contract in hours and days, right? They're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offers on one house. So the value of a realtor has even grown, and it continues to grow. But really to have that level of expertise, and it's not just about putting a house in the market and letting it sell, right? There's so much more in between that people don't see in regards to having the appropriate contracts, in regards to the coordination and consultation between the attorney, the lender, the title company, the home inspector. There's so many different phases. So it's in the best interest of a seller to really leave that to the pro, like myself, to really manage that process.
Yeah, I know my house sold in 1 week.
I bet.
Where am I going? Where do I go now? But yeah. How has COVID impacted the real estate business? I mean, in my case, it was fine.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Most would assume that COVID has negatively impacted the market. And the only area where I would say that has been more meticulous, and not that it wasn't before, is that these mortgage companies, they're doing employment verifications at the last minute. So like on the day of closing, they want to verify that people are employed. So just because of the volatility in the unemployment market, people getting laid off, people, losing jobs or quitting jobs or needing to stay home because they have, kids that they have to homeschool due to distance learning. There's so many different conditions. So in that respect, that employment piece has made a difference. But surprisingly, the market has been very steady. And in comparison to last year, sales are up about 32% in Hartford County. So, this time last year, and even though the market is, the other interesting part of data is that the inventory is about 50% less. So when you mention that, your home sold in a week, and other people have seen their homes pretty much get offers and go into contracts in hours or days, it's because there's not a lot of inventory out there. So it is definitely a competitive market in that respect. And then, the average home price due to that, has actually gone up by 11% versus last year. So It's really it's hot right now. It's a great time to be in real estate. It's a great time to sell your home. You will get top dollar for your home if your home is in decent condition. I was recently working with a client, and they were like, "Oh, well, our floors aren't shiny enough. Should we do this update or that update?" And I'm like, no, let's just see what happens, right? Because, what you may think is a priority for others may not be, for everyone, right, who's going to buy the home. And because the market is so competitive, there's other ways to negotiate that into the deal. So definitely COVID has had an interesting positive impact on the real estate market. And then I think the other major component is lower mortgage rates. So I was just reading an article where they said the mortgage rates are like historically the lowest ever. Like this is the 13th time this year that mortgage rates have been the lowest ever. Wow. In the low 2%, right? So to Marvette's point earlier, I too don't encourage people to just jump and say, oh, I was pre-approved, so let me go run and go buy a house, right? Because it is a long-term commitment. You're in this for 15, 20, 30 years, right? So when you think about how a loan amortizes, and I am not a mortgage professional and I will not act or claim to be one, but when you think about a loan over a period of time, if you're able to get an interest rate of 2.5%, right? Because your credit is where it needs to be, take a little bit of time to get it to where it needs to be, right? Don't take it at the high amount of 4 or 5% when mortgage rates are so low right now. So that's definitely solid advice that Marvette is giving her clients, because it may seem like you want to jump on it, and no one can predict, when the rates are going to go up, but the one thing that's been pretty consistent this year is that they've continued to go down. So there's time for people to get themselves together for 2021 and really still get a great rate.
So it's actually a seller and a buyer's market. It's both, right?
It is. The only thing is a buyer may pay a little more for a house, but it's not enough where it's still not a good deal, like where it's being exaggerated. And I think they've done a pretty good job overall where prices, like I said, they've gone up. The difference only been about 2% average, where let's say a house list for $200,000, they may close for $210,000, right? So, and oftentimes what people don't see in the back end is that there's closing costs negotiated in there. So for my buyers, I always go hard for them. I'm always trying to get whatever I can get back for them at the closing table. So, oftentimes you see people with several $1,000s in closing costs. And when you think about it, even if the house really closed at $210,000, then the buyer, could be getting back $8,000 at the closing table, right? So it really is like then $202,000, and it's not that much over. So there's ways to work around it if you have the right agent.
Very, very interesting. I'm enjoying all of this. What opportunities are out there for first-time buyers?
Yeah, so I think for first-time home buyers, the counseling piece is definitely key, right? Because it is a long-term investment. There are several first-time homebuyer programs. I know there's a lot of local community organizations that offer resources like the Urban League. When I first bought my house years ago, I went through the first-time homebuyer class myself just to educate myself. CHFA, which is the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, they also offer first-time homebuyer classes. And now a lot of these agencies have been doing them virtually because, we can't do things in person. So there was a slight lull in that earlier this year, so they can kind of figure out, how to have that class virtually versus in person. But there's a lot of resources out there, and, research is key, right? So you can, talk to your favorite realtor, do an online search, ask around, ask people. I think sometimes we're afraid to ask people or get in someone's business or think that someone's going to judge you for asking a question. Knowledge is power, right? And, in our community, we need to share that knowledge, more often. So that's why I'm so privileged and honored to be with you ladies today, this evening, and having this dialogue, because it is really something that promotes, generational wealth and, breaks those curses.
This is a personal question of mine. Do you suggest that all homeowners have their own inspection done before? Because what happened to me, there was things that I had no clue was wrong at the house, and the buyer had an inspection done, and of course I don't blame them. There were things that had to be upgraded before the house sold. So everybody that's selling a house should definitely have an inspection done first, right? So that they can just have that up front when the buyer comes along.
It depends. I mean, it's typical for the inspection to be on the buyer side, right? And honestly, there's probably always going to be something that comes up in a home inspection. I don't know if I've ever had something that wasn't perfect in a house, right? There's always something, whether it's a window, a doorknob, so I think when it really comes down to the mechanicals of the house, if you have a hot water heater, a boiler, if your roof is going, you got leaks in your roof, like those type of things are more obvious, and those are critical to the sale of your home. So in that respect, it might make sense to have a contractor or a home inspector come out, but that is an additional cost, right? Because you got to pay the home inspector. So in the home buying process, typically it's the buyer they're still going to do their own home inspection anyway. Because they want to make sure that they're picking someone that is acting in their best interest. So in my professional opinion, I would just say leave it to the buyer to do it. But if you're aware of, critical mechanical issues in the house, I mean, you have to do that property disclosure form that I'm sure you filled out, right? You would disclose what what you're aware of and some things you may not be aware of, right? And it may come up in a home inspection, but typically, most times than not, there's always something in there. And it doesn't mean some buyers will say, okay, well, I just want the house. I worked with a client recently and we went through, and this was a well-qualified client, right? Great credit, solid employment history. And every time it was just like we were this close to getting the contract just because, there was someone who was putting down straight cash or more cash. That's another trend in real estate as well. Marvette mentioned FHA loans, and that's the most common in these days, right? Because you have a lower down payment, you still have the low rate. But a conventional mortgage, if you're able to get that, only if you have a high credit score, you have a stronger position as a buyer to get that contract. And that's how competitive it's been, where people were like, yeah, I have a conventional mortgage, and that oftentimes superseded the FHA. And I'm not saying that's fair, but, a seller is going to want to take an offer. If they have 5 offers, they're going to want to take the offer with the least risk, right? So if someone's putting down $20,000 or someone has a higher credit score, and that led them to have a conventional mortgage, then they're going to go with that offer. And that's what I would advise my sellers to do, right? It sucks on the buyer side, but, it is what it is.
Oh, good information. What are some tips to prepare them for home ownership?
For buyers or for selling?
I think it's for the seller. Oh, both. I think it would be for both. I think it would be for both.
Both, yeah. I think for buyers, one of the first steps is, like Marvette mentioned, you can't not know what your credit score is, right? So you have to track your financial information. So when you go to a lender, they're going to ask you, how much do you have in your 401k? How much do you have in your savings? Which savings account is it? How long have you maintained that balance? What is your salary? Give me the history of your salary. What other investments or expenses? Are you paying alimony? Are you paying child support? So I wouldn't advise for someone to just walk in or contact a lender and not have that information together, or at least have an idea of that. And oftentimes that lender will give you an application or a questionnaire, which will give you, which will ask you those questions up front. But, really not having a solid understanding of where you are from a financial perspective, right, is important. And, you know, oftentimes that's why clients will first stop of the process is to work with Marvette, right? And go through that process to look at their credit, evaluate. Then they're able to pull those documents together and meet with the lender. And then at that point, when they're pre-approved for a certain amount, you know, you kind of figure out what am I looking for in a home? And I often tell clients there's some things that you may think you need, and you may not always find the property that's going to have everything that you want per se, but really focus on what your needs are. And then if the wants are in that as well, then that will come over time and you may find it. But in this market, it's just very competitive. Whereas before, you could really take the time to shop around. If you go look at a house these days, you need to be making an offer like before you walk out the door when you look at a house. So that has changed. So really, you know, having all your paperwork together and being knowledgeable. And I think on the seller side, kind of to what you mentioned, Teresa, is be prepared to move. So don't, to prepare your home, like don't have tons of clutter. You know, remove, you know, personal pictures from the home, like all personal aspects of yourself, which is kind of hard to do, right? Because, you know, you may have been in the home for 10, 20, kids could have grown up there, right? And it's personal to people, but really kind of making it clean, declutter, again, looking at any mechanical issues, making sure your first impression of a home is good. So, you know, if I'm showing a house and there's, you know, 1001 leaves and I'm swishing through to try and get to a lockbox, like it's just not a good first impression. So your house always needs to be in good condition for showing. So.
Great information. I was just looking at this one here, Marvette, officially homeowner. Somebody sent you that?
Yes.
So oh, that is, oh my God, that's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm so happy to have you ladies, especially because we're all ladies of color, and that you're helping one another. And I think it's just so wonderful. It just makes my heart feel glad. And I know that whoever watches this is going to be touched, and Marvette probably going to get more and more calls, and somebody's going to be buying more houses, and somebody's going to get Tamika. What would somebody get a hold of you for if you needed to help somebody with whatever?
Oh, I am a nail tech. I'm a lash tech, and I also do lipocavitation.
Oh, okay. All right.
You get your body right.
without going under the knife. So it's invasive. No under the knife, but yes, I can help sculpt your body. And
you can sculpt this. You can help this. What can you do for it, girl? What can you do?
I can do some skin tightening and get you a nice little shape, you know, get your little stomach together for you.
Oh my God.
I need to hit you up before my birthday.
Oh my.
Let me know in advance so I can fly in.
Oh, it's been so wonderful. I just want each one of you guys to before you go off though, to give some advice to young folks that's out here. And I know myself, at one time my credit score was like 5 something, and believe it or not, my credit score now is over 800 or something. So, but I tell a lot of young people when I've spoken to a lot of young folks, credit score is bad and all. I said, but it takes time. It's not I didn't know what advice to give them like a Marvette would give them. But I'm just like, it takes time. You just have to do a little bit at a time, and it will change. And I would tell them, I said, at one time, I didn't even know your credit score would go over 800. And I said, but it can, but it takes time. So people like you guys are so important to, especially a lot of young people. Because when I said, Marvette, that I was going to have you on, people were saying, oh man, I would like to talk to her. Or, so a lot of people are out there that need advice. And I know a lot of people out there too that wants a home and don't know how to go about it. And all of this works together. And so each one of you guys, I just want you to give a final word to folks out there, young folks, old folks, We'll start with you, Marvy.
Okay. My advice is to get your life in order. Get your finances together. When your finances are together, nothing will flow the right way. Be consistent and pay your bills on time. I know growing up, like when the bill collectors used to call, we would hide and not answer the phone and all that foolishness. No, you got to pick up the phone, make an arrangement, tell them I'll pay you next week. You can't hide. You can't. If you run from this stuff, it's going to eventually catch up with you. So my advice is to stay on top of your bills because that's your life. Another thing is, as parents, my son is here with me. I gifted my son good credit at 18 years old. I've been teaching him since day one for the past 2 years. When I started fixing my credit, I sat down with him and I showed him my credit score, which was in the 500s. And I said, this is what you don't want to do. And from that day forward, he's followed me throughout the journey and he has excellent credit. So as parents, train your children. Give them something that we didn't have growing up, or even if you had it growing up, teach them still, because that's one of the problems is communication and not showing people. We think that everybody will just learn it on their own and figure it out. And that's one of the biggest mistakes we have in our community is letting our kids figure it out, because I'm almost 40 and it took me a long time to figure it out. And if I would have knew the things that I know now, if I knew these things in my 20s, I would be a lot further in life. I have no regrets, but I would love to be a millionaire by now, if you get what I'm saying. I would be much further in life if I knew the things that I know now. So my advice is to stay consistent, stay on top of your bills, because you need credit for the remainder of your life. And if you do need help, reach out to me, 860-719-6510. You can find me on Facebook, Marvy's Consultant, Marvy Will. Have a good day, guys.
Wonderful. Okay, Tamika, I'm going to have you next to just say a little something to the audience.
I will just say, basically, like Marvette said, pay your bills on time. And the key thing is don't live beyond your means. If you can't afford it to pay for it with cash, then don't put it on your card, because you can't afford to pay for that either, because they're going to add some extra. So if you don't got the price right now, it's going to be more later. So just, try to fall back from that and just live within your budget, so that way you can stay on top of it and have a good credit score when it's time for you to buy your house or open your business or, get your property built or whatever you want to do. Make sure that, those things are in order so you are able to do that.
Great advice. All right, Ms. Arlena.
Yeah, so I will also condone the financial stability, making sure that you have good budgeting routines, good bill paying routines, and also awareness of, what your debt to income ratio is, because oftentimes I see individuals and that is a barrier for them in regards to real estate, but also just realizing the opportunities that are in real estate, right? So you can get a first-time home buyer loan and you can buy a multifamily house, right? And you can live there and owner occupy and rent out a unit and have that be put towards your mortgage. So I always tell my daughter, don't be a I can't, be a I can. So just really put the focus and effort into, what those aspirations and dreams are. And, real estate in our community, like there's so much opportunity there. So just take advantage of that. And, the tax benefits that you get from that over time. And you also mentioned youth. And I would say, and I think what Marvette is doing with her son is phenomenal, right? Wonderful. But when you go to college, oftentimes, especially in our community, you have people who are going off to campuses and then they're getting these credit card offers as well as teenagers. And then they're not at home, and then they're eating out, or they're going this place and going that place. So, be smart, even though I know people will make mistakes at that age, but just really try and be conscious about your credit early on, because in the future state, they can be a lot to clean up.
Wonderful. So again, I want to thank my guests for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure. And I just enjoyed talking to you guys. And I know that this program is going to touch a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so I would like to say to the WIN TV audience, thank you as always for watching. And we'll see you next time. Good night.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.